It's getting dicey out there in the automotive market. Typically in October, November, sales start accelerating as manufacturers want to have a strong close to the year. Honda, Subaru, Mazda just posted their November sales tallies, and they're all down versus last year's November. Honda being the most affected, Subaru and Mazda not looking that strong either. So in today's video, we're going to go car by car from each brand and discuss what is not working out for these companies right now. So if you guys love automotive sales updates, I cover them once a month because they come out at the first or second, depending on how the sales days work. But they come out at the beginning of every month, and I love diving into this sort of content. I used to sell cars for Lexus before starting, or should I say, before going full-time on this channel. And it was because of that job at Lexus that I was inspired to start a YouTube channel. So car sales for me I'm just a kid in a candy store. I love looking at these things, and it's always something new. It never ceases to amaze me to see manufacturers surge and fall depending on market demands, governmental demands, political issues going on throughout the world that are causing chip supply issues that's affecting Honda really badly right now. Like, there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on, and it's just fun to see such a fluid situation in the car market. What we have right here, we're at Automotive News. They have the sales tally of what's going on in the industry. Now, for the ones reporting, the market's down right now, or should I say, as November ended, -3%. Prior to that, the entire year so far is up 5% for all the automakers, at least the ones reporting here. There are other automakers that are doing far worse. If you look at Jeep, Ram, Stellantis in general, holy cannoli, they're not doing well. All right, their day supply is well north of 100 days, which is not healthy or sustainable long term. So what we have here, though, if we look at this column, November change, Lincoln, Hot Mess Express, Honda, Hotter Mess Express, and I'll explain why. Volvo, dear Lord, -26%. That's a mess. All right. Even Lexus was down, and Lexus is on pace to have a record-breaking year still. But Subaru, Mazda, companies that were on like record-breaking tears of consecutive months of growth, these companies are seeing some shakeups right now. But we're going to start with Mazda. What was it, last week? I drove the CX-70, so check out that review. Fantastic vehicle. It's probably top 20 cars I reviewed so far in 2025. All right, but what's going on with the Mazda 3? Mazda 3, it's just a bloodbath, -23% on the year. The Mazda 3 down 31%. Most of the Mazda 3s come in into America are from Mexico. Look at a lot of these Mazda 3 sedans. Why is it down so much? Well, I think most of the hatchback, this is just a guess, I'm guessing most of the hatchbacks come in from Japan, where Japan has less tariff issues than cars in Mexico, seemingly. So we have, more Mazda 3 hatchbacks coming in, being sold, and the hatchback is actually outselling the sedan. And this might be for the first time ever. You look at last year, it was like a 2-to-1 sedan to hatchback ratio. Now it's 9-to-12 ratio with 3-to-4 ratio of Mazda 3 sedan to hatchback. Just wild. Miata's down massively. I'm not sure. Maybe the market's just not good for sports cars right now. It's up on the year, should I say, 10% on the year, but look at this slide, down almost 50% on the month. CX-30, down 38% on the year, or should I don't want to look at DSR too much, all right? So Mazda CX-30, down 39% on the year, but down 50% on the month. Most of the CX-30s we get also come from Mexico. Mexico is hammering, or the tariffs are hammering Mexican-made Mazdas, all right? And so Mazda's like, we're just not going to send that many from Mexico to the United States. We'll send that extra volume to Canada or other countries. All right. And the volume has just dropped off a cliff, not due to the lack of demand. There is a lack of demand to an extent on cars like the Mazda 3 and the CX-30, but it's not indicative of the numbers we're seeing. The numbers we're seeing is largely due to tariffs on those two cars made in Mexico. All right. Moving on to the CX-5. It is up 16% on the month, up 1% on the year. The new CX-5 will be coming out early next, like January, February. And this is your last chance essentially to get the incredible CX-5. And there are quite a few out there. There are good deals to be had on the CX-5, turbo or not. You won't have the turbo option on the new one. All your buttons and controls and your knobs, volume knob, all that's being taken away on the new CX-5. It's all being put into a touchscreen. So it's just going to be a completely different car. It's bigger, has more cargo, it's better for putting kids in. So there are redeeming factors to it, and it will eventually have a hybrid. But anyways, that hybrid's not here at launch. We're at least a year and a half out, something like that. All right, so CX-5 carrying the brand with 10,000 units. But you know what? Its sister vehicle, the only Mazda made in America, made in Alabama, the CX-50, actually outsold the CX-5. I've never seen this happen before where the CX-50 is outsold a CX-5. It may have happened, but I don't remember. So it's up 64% on the month. Absolutely going ham. Mazda has to produce as many of these as possible. And Toyota is actually, this is my theory, Toyota in that same plant in Alabama, it's a shared plant with Mazda and Toyota. They build the Corolla Cross and Corolla Cross Hybrid. Those sales are actually down, but the CX-50s are up. So my theory is that Toyota is saying, hey, Mazda, we'll let you have a little bit more production capacity for the CX-50. We'll take a hit with the Corolla Cross. That's my theory, because Mazda has one lifeline to avoid tariffs, and that is the CX-50. Isn't it crazy? Just a few years ago, this plant's brand new. It's like 2 or 3 years old in Alabama. All right. Mazda would be just like Mitsubishi, not just like Mitsubishi. Mitsubishi only makes their cars in Japan and brings them to the United States for our market anyways. Or they make cars in Southeast Asia too that we don't get. Mazda would be like Mitsubishi and have no North American production, or should I say no United States production, because Mazda has Mexican production. But luckily, they inked a deal with Toyota, kind of their partner in crime, because Toyota does own a part of Mazda. If they didn't have that plant in Alabama, they would be reeling like Mitsubishi is right now. But Mazda not doing that bad because of the increased availability of the CX-50. Also, keep in mind, Mazda is not sending the CX-50 to Canada anymore. They're only really sending them for the United States because that's their only lifeline to avoid tariffs, like I mentioned. So that's doing good. CX-70, I think Mazda's realized that this car, it was a mistake. It doesn't mean it's a bad car. It's a great car. It's the size of a 3-row without 3 rows, and it costs as much as the CX-90, which has 3 rows, and it's the exact same car. It's frustrating. I mean, styling's a little bit different, but outside of that, it's exactly the same vehicle. Drives exactly the same as a CX-90. The CX-70 is down 70%. It's only been on the market a couple of years now. Now it's up 42% on the year, but look, they're almost not selling any anymore. And I looked at my area when I reviewed it. There's hardly any available. So like, it might only be a matter of time before the CX-70 is just killed. I wouldn't be surprised, like in the next couple of years, because the sales volume is laughable. I mean, the MX-5 almost outsold the CX-70. Like a small coupe convertible almost outsold a 2-row crossover. That shouldn't happen in America, but it's happening because it's the same car as the CX-90 with 2 rows. CX-90 is down. CX-90 had an amazing year last year. There's great availability of the CX-90, but look, it's still up on the year, 6%. Mazda's cars not doing great. Obviously, their cars are the Miata and the Mazda 3. Their SUVs are up 3% on the month, largely due to the CX-5 and the CX-50. Hopefully we can get a new CX-30, but it would have to be made somewhere else, because the made in Mexico situation for the Mazda 3 sedan and the CX-30 is really hurting them. All right. And Mazda's okay. Mazda's okay with being down because they're choosing to be down. They're choosing to just not take a huge loss on the highly tariffed Mexican made 3 and 30. So they're okay with having a little bit dent in sales instead of having to fork over more for tariffs. We look at Honda here, and Honda, before I even get into it, I'm not going to get into them too much because they're down almost across the board because of this going on. Nexperia, which is a chip maker, a lot of the chips go into Honda cars. Honda doesn't have another supplier for chips in a lot of situations. But these two countries, I should say, Netherlands and China, are not getting along. I don't want to get into it too much. But what the effect is that Honda and other manufacturers don't have microchips to put in the cars. Therefore, they cannot produce cars. And if you cannot produce cars, you cannot sell what you don't have. All right. And so if you look, their sales are just down across the board, besides the Passport and the Integra. Everything else is down. It's a bloodbath for Honda. It's just an absolute horrible month. October was not great for them. They're about neutral in October, but now we're down almost 20%. And we're not looking at DSR, we're looking at total volume here. Accord down 9%, Civic down 5%, CRV 14% down, HRV, even though CRV can be made in Canada, United States, HRV made down in Mexico, they're all affected by this Nexperia chip thing. HRV down 14%, Odyssey down 17%. Passport's the only thing, but the Passport, you got to keep in mind, the new one wasn't on sale this time last year. So it's kind of like it's not apples to oranges, or apples to apples, I say. It's apples to oranges. It's not a direct comparison of what's happening. All right. Anyways, Pilot down 27%. Pilot just got a refresh. It's not going to move the needle. I promise you. It's a similar refresh to what the MDX had, and that refresh has not moved the needle for the MDX. What the Odyssey, the Pilot, the Passport, well, not necessarily the Passport, because that's more of an off-roady thing, but the Odyssey and the Pilot absolutely need a large platform hybrid, and we're still 2-3 years away. It's really tough. Honda's in a tough position with their large platform cars. Prologue, they still sell it, but yesterday Trump just demolished like the fuel economy standards. So you don't need to make loss leading cars such as EVs. You don't have to incentivize 10, 20K, which Acura was doing with the ZDX to get them out the door. They were discounting them by the tens of thousands of dollars. You could lease a ZDX for less money than an ADX. In what world does that make sense? It seems like now that's not going to make sense. The sense is coming back into the car industry where, believe political or not, it's like, why have these companies suffer and build cars that people are not buying? Have an EV. If your EV is making you money, make as many freaking EVs as you can. Simple as that. But the problem is very few people are interested in EVs at a high rate. The manufacturers are being forced to oversupply due to the minuscule demand that there was for EVs. All right. And as a result, ZDX done. Prologue is going to be done after this year. I guarantee it. Yes, it got greenlit for another year, 2026, but why? It's such low volume, down 90% year over year. You might be saying, Kirk, it's the Nexperia chip thing, but no, most of them are down 15% on average. The Prologue's down almost 100%. It's crazy. Ridgeline, they just need Nissan to build them a truck and badge the Frontier as a Honda. That's what they need to do. The Ridgeline is likely to be discontinued soon. Integra, up 5%. This is one of the bright stars. TLX, rest in peace. They're just selling off what they have because they stopped production months ago. But Integra, up 5%. That and the Passport, the two only bright spots, it seems like. Well, and the ADX. ADX is really helping out Acura. If Acura did not have the ADX, I would be genuinely worried. And I am worried for the longevity of Acura, and that hurts me to say because I love Acura so much, or at least the history of Acura. Their current products, well, other than the Integra Type S, which is a Civic Type R, just a little bit different, a little bit nicer. Other than that, and the MDX Type S is great. But other than those two cars, everything is just so average or subpar for their class even. And it sucks. They make good looking cars, but they don't do anything better than the rivals at this point. So and no hybrids is not helping Acura and will not help Acura for the next 2-3 years until they come. So Honda's in a tough spot. It's a double whammy. Last month, we were seeing a potential drop in demand for Honda, a drop in interest for Honda. Honda's also not incentivizing very much right now compared to the competition. Honda, they might keep shrinking in some ways, but Honda's also capacity capped. They wanted to build a huge EV hub in Canada. Well, it's not going to happen anymore. It's been on an indefinite postponement. All right, but they wanted to build an EV manufacturing hub in Canada. The only way they go through with it if something massive changes in the market where people want EVs. That's really what it comes down to at this point. And I don't see that happening. So it's just like it would take a miracle for Honda to go through with that EV manufacturing hub in Canada. All right. So other than that, they don't have any like expansion for manufacturing. Trump has said, hey, Honda's going to build more plants, but Honda's not said that. And my Honda contacts directly within Honda has not said that they're building more plants in the United States. But Honda, as of right now, doesn't have any more additional production capacity to grow. They're just kind of okay with floating. And it's really strange. They were banking on EVs in Canada to expand their manufacturing prowess in North America, but that's not going to happen. They need to build another plant in America. And who knows how long that'll take, if and when they'll do that. But yes, this is just a blip in the radar for Honda with the Nexperia chip thing. But we don't know how long the Nexperia chip thing could continue on. Honda needs to diversify and have a different supplier for microchips is what it comes down to, because Nexperia is crippling Honda more than all the other manufacturers, seemingly so far. Honda was completely dependent on making a lot of cars with these chips, and other manufacturers less so dependent. All right, let's finish with Subaru. Subaru, there's nothing really good to talk about here. Subaru down 10%, WRX down 50%, Solterra down 80%, Outback down 6.5%. Well, the new one's coming that might help sales, because a lot of people who like the old wagon are not going to get the old wagon now with the more boxy SUV styling and design. And Preza, rest in peace, or not Legacy, rest in peace, down 12%, and Preza down about 30%. All right, hatchback only now. Forester down 6%, Crosstrek down 5%, BRZ down a lot. Ascent is, the joke is that car's just called the Descent. It's never in the positive. It's always tanking, down 23% this year, almost as bad as a WRX, and that should not happen for a 3-row crossover in America, but it is not competitive in any sense of the word. Yeah, I don't know how much of this sales drop is affected by the Nexperia, if at all. Like Honda it's down a lot. Subaru could be as well, but it could also be a drop in Subaru demand, which I think it's a twofold thing for Honda, but it could be mainly a drop in demand just for Subarus right now. Mazda holding strong with barely negative on the year, selling what they do best, which is the CX-5 and the CX-50. All right, making their money there. But Subaru, even they have pretty fresh product too. They have more EVs coming down the hatch, but they're going to be expensive and the interest is going to be low. Yeah, Subaru, hopefully I get a chance to review the Outback soon. I haven't watched any of my colleagues' first drive impressions on it. I hope to get it in the press fleet as soon as possible so I can give you guys my impressions on the new Outback. And Honda, who knows how long they're going to be held down by this chip crunch from Nexperia. And Mazda seemingly has figured out their tariff situation for now, okay, with reducing cars out of Mexico and prioritizing that CX-50 in America. Thank you guys for watching. Stay tuned for more. As you can see in the background, I have a Genesis GV80 Sport model that I'm reviewing this week, as well as the behemoth Hummer EV SUV tri-motor. I think I only had the dual motor last time. Anyways, I didn't like it. Do I still hate it? Well, find out, because I'm going to have to re-review it. Second review this year. I reviewed it back in January, and this is going to be like, hey, do I still hate this thing? So stay tuned for that. Thank you guys. Have a great day, and peace.